What's up, guys? Today we're going to jump into another off-meta deck. We got Red Green Law here, sent over by the Alchemist. I used to play this deck a lot back in OPO3, OPO4, before the Whitebeard bans, but super excited to get into it. Really fun deck. Love the leader ability. We're not going to go over the deck list too much. It was just sent to me by a buddy, but let's jump into some games. So game one, it does look like we're going to be playing off against Purple Yellow Croc, and luckily we do get to choose to go second here. I haven't played this deck in a while, so it's going to be a little bit longer of a game, a lot more thinking, but this is kind of a super optimal hand, especially going second. With this leader, you really just want to flood the board as quickly as possible. Search as much as possible, and then utilize your searchers as like an advantage engine later in the game. Just waiting for the Croc player to keep his hand or mulligan and then make his first play. Not really a lot that they can do. They could play like a Lilith. I'm not really sure what purple Baroque work cards they have for searchers. It doesn't matter though, they're just gonna pass. We are searching off of the Kid Killer here. We're gonna think to either grab the 1-cost Luffy or the 5-cost Law Blocker. Thinking on the Luffy just because it's a smaller body and we'd be able to drop 3 bodies on the next turn. One of them being a Luffy to then generate value by replacing itself after leaving the hand. But the 5-cost Law is like a pretty crucial combo piece once we have our board filled up and we're able to start abusing our leader effect. Just really thinking it over here. I'm pretty sure we go with the 1-cost Luffy though. It generates us a little bit better. I'm wrong, chat. I am so wrong. We grabbed the 5-cost Law here. Again, not even a bad choice. I don't regret grabbing it over the Luffy because it is one of the 3 or 4 cards that you actively want to see in the list. We also take the first life, which is pretty common for most leaders, most games. You generally take the first life just to have an extra card in hand, an extra option to play. But with Red Green Law, I'm always very willing to take the first 2 hits, sometimes even the first 3 hits. You want the extra card advantage, you want as many small bodies as you can on your opener for the game. So we're gonna move into our forward on turn. We're just gonna play another Kid Killer. We're trying to develop a board here, so going into our forward on play, our thought process is Kid Killer, Scratchman Apu, 1-cost Killer. We do have the option to grab either this 5-cost X-Drake, which just grants protection for supernovas by minusing your leader 2k. Or we are thinking about grabbing the 1-cost Luffy. I'm more inclined to grab the 1-cost Luffy just because it continues to replenish cards in hand. We just played out the Kid Killer. We're going to grab a new card that replaces the Kid Killer in hand. We're probably going to grab the Luffy, that way we can play the Luffy for 1. That puts us at 3 characters on board, but it also allows us to search out another supernova outside of Luffy, which replaces the card back in hand. Thinking it out for a moment, we do go with the Luffy. Here we're just grabbing a 2k. There's no reason to grab another searcher. Our board is getting filled up and we're going to be able to start looping our smaller bodies off of our leader effect here soon. Essentially, actually the next turn we could theoretically play down the 5-cost Law, bounce back one of the searchers, and then play it again off of the Law to search another card. That's a very common Red Green Law play. Passing here, we just swung 6. We were able to chip into their life. I don't know if so I haven't played a ton of Purple Yellow Croc to begin with, but the games that I have played into it, I don't often see this Hiyori, since you're able to Okama away into Kikanojo or Basil Hawkins regardless, or Kuma even. So it's very interesting to see the Hiyori blocker. Opting to not use either of the Kid Killers, I think we just take this hit. There's not really a reason. I'm wrong, we counter. We counter here. Usually I would just eat that hit. It's maybe honestly just because we haven't established a bigger body to start swinging with yet. But we do luck into the Cavendish. Cavendish is really clutch here because we're going to be able to move a Dawn with the Killer and then also have an active Dawn to swing 7 with Leader and then still be able to bounce a character to hand to play out a different character. So we're going to Shambles, we're going to bounce back the Luffy to play out the Law Blocker effect. We're going to play the Luffy back out. We're going to search the Zoro. So instead of Law Blocker, bounce Kid Killer, play Kid Killer back out, we opt for the Luffy just in the sense of having multiple different colored characters. With Law's Leader effect, you really need to focus on having like a diverse build between both red and green, since you have to bounce one color back to play a different color out. Bounce green, play red, bounce red, play green. So I'm really trying to stay mindful of the color characters that we have on field at the moment. We have a pretty green heavy hand, so keeping red characters in rotation is pretty important for Leader effect. This is such an optimal play for the Crocodile. Dropping the Perona, it's such a strong play. They're gonna stun out our Cavendish, and now we just have essentially a dead body on field. We don't really have a good red character to swap it out with. It's not going to be able to generate a lot of value on the next turn. It's very unfortunate for us. They just swing a 7 here. So we pop the Kid Killer and we reset Dawn. We're not going to counter out of this. I just wanted to clear up a body off of the board. It's a weird thing to say, but sometimes the limitations of the game mechanics on how many characters you're allowed to have in play really puts a damper on the combo ability of some leaders. Red Green Law being a really good example. We are just waiting for opponent to pass here. They have nothing that they can do. We're opting to play out the Kid Killer. We're going to search out the Restand Law. That is probably the best option. We're going to bounce the Cavendish that was frozen back to hand, move some Dawn around with the Killer. Then we're just going to swing 7-7, maybe 7-8 here. Oh, we could actually do 7-7-7 with the Blocker Law and not be too worried about them clearing our field. We have a good bit of counter in hand right now. They're kind of just generously giving us life here, so we're gonna pressure a little bit more. I think also the reason I swung with the blocker law, if they remove one of the characters off of our field, we're already mentally setting up to play the 8 cost kid on the following turn or the turn after. Pretty much as soon as we're able to drop the kid and put a Dawn on it, that's what we're shooting for. I don't think we really needed to pop the kid killer here. We have ample counter to get out of this. We even don't use the event. So I think that was a little bit of a waste of a character. Especially letting the Zoro die on top of it. But I think my idea is just to play out the 8 cost kid and then play a blocker out on top of it. Yep, and then we play the Kushiro as well. We are able to still move the Dawn with the 1 cost killer, and we'll just swing 7. They are leaving the 1 Dawn up, so in the back of my head, I am thinking about Okama Way to push into either the Perona or the kid. But I don't feel like they're about to Okama Way us, so I'm not worried about it too much. So that last turn was pretty important, dropping the 8 cost kid. To my knowledge, Crocodile doesn't really have an efficient way to remove 8 cost kid. So as long as we can just keep walling up with different blockers or like sustaining counter in hand, they can't really remove the kid. At this point, if we can keep kid on board, we're just gonna win. So here, like I said, they're swinging 9, we just give them a 2k counter. They're going to swing another 9 into it. We give them the character, but this isn't... We obviously have the counter in hand, we could have saved it, but we're kind of trying to set up to play bigger bodies. As long as we can maintain 2 blockers is nice, but as long as we can maintain 1 blocker on top of the 8 cost kid with a little bit of counter in hand, we're solid. Here I'm really just trying to math out the turn, decide what I can do best. I choose to re-establish a Cavendish. Phenomenal card, does a lot for the deck. Almost feels like it was made for the deck, honestly. But earlier when we tried playing it, they froze it with the Perona. Didn't get a lot of use out of it. Kind of had to sit a couple turns. During the first run through of this game, I did not realize that they were playing Kinemon 2k counter. They just tried to trigger Kinemon, but you have to have a Land of Wano type leader to be able to play him. Didn't realize that in the first go of this game. We're just gonna swing 9 here. Kind of a little ballsy, but we do still have the ability to leader effect, so it's not that big of a deal. Yep, Okama Way into the Kuma, heal back up to 2, not really that big of a deal. I'm just gonna swing 7 with leader, pretty sure they're gonna take it here. They don't, they counter, putting them down to 2 cards in hand, which still very solid for us. We're just gonna shambles. I want to say we're gonna bounce the Luffy back to hand to play the 5 cost Law. And then probably bounce the Kid Killer to play the Luffy back out. Just to maybe grab a 2k counter. And theoretically, it should be easy enough for us to clear life on the next turn and potentially even go for lethal. They swing 8, we give them a 1k. They swing another 8, we're just gonna give them another 1k. I'm kidding, we give them a 2k, we don't have any 1ks left. We give them another 2k here. And at this point, I feel like we've probably just closed the game out. Except they freeze our Cavendish again, and that sucks. They drop another Perona, they freeze the Cavendish. I'm not really expecting this, but it's not that big of a deal either. We just swing a handful of times, already putting them down to 1 life from 1 swing. We could do 9, 9, 8 with both of the blockers. Oh, just kidding. We decide to restand the law blocker and swing 13. Not really a lot to go over in that game. It was a bit of a thinker. We took our turns a little slow, really trying to make sure our math was correct. But overall, I think it was a good game. It was a good representation of playing Red-Green Law again for the first time in, like I said, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I had a lot of fun with it. Let's jump into game 2. Alright guys, game 2, we're running into Emu. I'm a little concerned with this matchup just because Emu does really good into lower ranged bodies. It's hard to get aggressive when they can just kind of out-tempo you and keep their bodies on field better than you can. We do get to take second here, which is really, really important. We're just really trying to maintain that same game plan from game 1 that I was talking about, going wide quick and then abusing leader effect as much as possible. We drop the Luffy here. I think it's just an auto grab X Drake. Knowing that Emu has not a lot of removal opportunities, but as soon as they hit 6 Dawn, they're going to try removing a body. So we take the X Drake in preparation. 2 Dawn, we've established 2 characters already. Here, they're gonna kind of waste a Shirahoshi, in my opinion. We just trash off a 2k counter. We don't really care here. We have life to eat when they swing into it. They're gonna search out the Equilibrium, of course, and then, do all that Emu stuff. We are at 4 Dawn. We're gonna search again off of the Luffy. So we take the 8 cost Kid here, and it doesn't hurt us later in the game, but almost immediately after grabbing this to hand, I realize it's probably not that good of a card to actually add to hand in this matchup. Like, you don't really gain a lot of value off of 8 cost Kid in the Emu matchup because they can just reduce the power to 6k and then swing 7+ into it with the different elders. So kind of a little bit of a mishap on my end. Looking back on it, I would have probably preferred to grab the restand law. We do want to get that Shirahoshi off the field. That card's super annoying. It kind of ruins their sustainability, if that's the correct word. So they have to be at 7 to 10 cards in trash for their characters to be untouchable, essentially. I think it's 7. I think they're all good at 7 trash, that none of them can be interacted with or removed, I guess. So playing the Shirahoshi too early kind of makes you vulnerable to removal, even though we don't run removal in Law. Just something to think about. Always keep an eye on your opponent's trash. We're just going to take the 7 here. There's really no point in countering out. as I said earlier in the video, we really like to take the first couple hits. We want the hand advantage, and we're moving into our 6th Dawn turn with a full board. So we can already start just by doing leader effect, playing out a Cavendish for 2, but it's essentially free because he restands the Dawn. So we're gonna play out a Blocker Law, we're gonna bounce a Luffy back, we're just gonna play the Luffy back out, I'm pretty sure, to generate more advantage and, loop off of another search. Oh, actually, thinking about the Kushiro, probably trying to set up to generate value off of the 8-cost kid on the next turn if we're able to. That way we have some blockers set up. The Kushiro is also really good because it keeps the 5-cost Cavendish and the 5-cost Law blocker from being removed, which they're right in range of a Marcus Mars. He's on his 7 Dawn turn right now. This is where he should be dropping a Marcus Mars if we didn't have the Kushiros out. We're not doing terrible right now, but I do feel like our back is still kind of against the wall. Emu's not a stellar matchup for us. We do pitch off the Perona. We have a full board right now. We have basically all of the cards that we need to run the game as smooth as we can, so we don't really need to search out another slash type. Like, it would be nice, but it's not necessary. Then here we do just take down to 1. We're trying to maintain cards in hand. Swing into the Shirahoshi, minus it 1k with the Luffy. Now we're just trying to play over the Luffy with the kid. Testing the waters here. We didn't have more Dawn to attach to the Cavendish, but a lot of times Emu will just eat a life. Being at 4, they're still very healthy here. There was no reason for them not to. We're contemplating now, hey, we could swing a 6 or we could swing a 7k swing. We almost choose to 7k with leader. Then we remember kid needs a Dawn to be a wall. So we rest him, then we just swing 6. We're kind of trying to bait out the War Curie here. Blockers are a little annoying, and I don't think we have unblockable in this list. We do feel very comfortable with the double Kushiro blocker and the 8-cost kid though, so we're willing to swing out the 5-cost Law blocker. At this point, we're almost actually suffering from having too many valuable cards on field right now. Not that our board is clogged up, but we don't really have the available option to make different plays. I don't know if you guys realized what just happened or not. I was kind of yapping a little bit. Opponent plays down the 7-cost Jupiter, bringing everything to 7k, all of his elders to 7k. He then used the equilibrium can't be maintained, whatever it's called, trying to remove our Cavendish. I don't know if they've ever read Kushiro before, but we're able to just rest the Kushiro to save the Cavendish. And now we still even have a blocker, and they have no active Dawn. At this point, I kind of realize I don't think our opponent has ever been kid locked before. I don't think they've actually ever seen 8-cost kid, so they're gonna go through the motions of trying to turn their character sideways. They can't. Well, they could. They could swing 7k into the kid. It's not gonna do anything though. So they're just gonna run through this. They're trying to swing all of their characters into my life, into my Cavendish. It's just not working. This is where they realize they can't attack. We tell them, hey, you have to swing into the 8-cost kid. It's how it works, you know? OPO 1 card, still seeing play. Here we're really just trying to wait for them to pass the turnover. We're really close to being able to lethal. Our like theoretical lines here, we maybe play the 5-cost green X Drake to rest the blocker. They have no other blockers on field. We can then swing Kid, then swing Cavendish, and then restand the Cavendish potentially to then also set Mordon as active. So we're really just trying to find the best line for lethal here, trying to decide what's the best Dawn allocation. So we just swing the 8, testing the water. They don't have Dawn up, so we're in a pretty good spot. We're going to swing another 8 with the Cavendish, restanding 2. Then we just swing 9 for life with leader, you know? Crazy enough, I think this is probably the hardest matchup for Red Green Law, but they did not leave a Dawn active. I don't think we die on the following turn, even through a 5 Elders, or yeah, 5 Elders. I always want to call them 10 Elders. I don't think we die through a 5 Elders, but I don't think we have a super crisp line of play on the following turn if they get the double blockers out. Double blockers and they draw into another Never Existed, and then they search another card out, and then when we go to swing they have the Workery, so they're going +3 +4 on their next turn regardless. Really happy we were able to close it out, but I don't know if the game would have ended the same way had they just left a Dawn open. Alright guys, it looks like our last game of the video is going to be into Purple Doflamingo. Very unique deck, does pretty much whatever it wants, has a little bit of heal, a little bit of redirecting, ramping, it's all good. So on the first turn, we have a couple options here. We can either play out the Perona or we can play out the 1-cost Luffy. The Luffy has a wider range of targets that it could have grabbed, being any supernova outside of Luffy, whereas Perona only grabs / or green events. But I've played into Purple Dofi a good number of times. I know that they really like to plant the 1-cost sugar that rests itself to search out another card, so it's a little bit better for me to have a 2k power character that could clear that body versus a 0 character that can reduce the sugar to 0. It's always better to swing over versus swinging neutral, if that makes sense. So we opt to search out the Blocker Law. Just as you guys have seen throughout the games, it's a really good piece to have. They do play out the sugar. They're just searching out a card here. Typical Purple Dofi stuff. And then they're gonna pass back to us. Eventually, they draw another sugar. I believe they draw into the 4-cost sugar though. So we're gonna swing 2k here. I'm kind of expecting them to just let it die, but they end up countering here, which is kind of strange. Eventually. So they do give us a 2k counter there. We're gonna just run the law into the sugar. Usually we wouldn't even turn our character sideways. We like to maintain a board presence until a little bit later in the game where we've already snowballed. But giving decks the opportunity to utilize a searcher multiple times in a row puts them at way too much of an advantage. So we do swing into the sugar with the leader. They redirect it into their leader. We play the Luffy. Luffy searches us a Kid Killer. Kid Killer finds us a restand law. At this point, we pretty much have all of the pieces that we need. We just have to get to the turns to utilize them correctly. I am at this point a little bit worried that they realize, hey, we need to swing into characters. Their leader can't utilize its effect unless they have 5 characters. So I'm really worried that they're going to go Doflamingo into Perona here. But they're just searching off of their sugar at the moment. Very easy target. We're going to swing the Kid Killer into it on the following turn. They do opt to swing 6 here, deciding to go into the leader. We're just going to take it. We want the extra card in hand. Unfortunately, it's a Cavendish, but it doesn't matter. We drop the Cavendish. We're going to restand Dawn here. We do drop the Perona, or not Perona, the Otama, dropping it to negative 1k, and then swinging 2000 into it, being 3k over. They would have to either redirect the attack, or they would need to give us 4k counter, and there's no way they're doing that. So they do take a 5k. They're down to 3 life now. We're just gonna pass here. We don't really need to do anything else. We can't do anything else. We don't have another searcher. 1 cost event does nothing for us for active main. We're sitting not too bad though. We have a decent field, at least a decent enough field to use leader effect. We are kind of concerned again that they're gonna swing into the Kid Killer. That's kind of the flaw of the deck, is you need to maintain field. So if they do that, it kind of throws our game plan off a little bit. But if we're able to maintain the body, we can just leader effect into a 5 cost for basically free. So they swing into the life. We will give them the counter event here. We could have taken it. We could have gotten the extra card into hand, but I know how fast Doflamingo ramps, and I know how quickly they play bigger bodies. Like, they're probably going to go into a 5 cost Virgo off of redirecting into the sugar, so there's no reason to give them extra value. Yep, as I thought, they do sugar into Virgo. We're just going to play the restand law. We put the Cavendish back as active, swing a second time. This generates us the Dawn recursion to be able to swing big a couple times, and I honestly just absolutely love swinging Cavendish. It feels so good to map out different Dawn amounts, basically, like, oh, I can swing this much, I can play a character, I can restand the Cavendish, I can swing with it, restand more Dawn, put that on leader, swing bigger. We opt to play the Kushiro just because we have a couple 5 costs. They don't really have, I don't think Dofi runs God Thread, and there's not really a different way to remove characters outside of 10 cost Dofi. But we played the Kushiro just to kind of protect our investments at this point. They could theoretically also go Virgo into Cavendish -1 Dawn to reduce the Cavendish to 4,000, making it a really easy target to swing into. We would have the counter to get out of that, but it's just messy. Well, we would have the counter to get out of one of the swings into the Cavendish at 4k. The Virgo, if they swung Virgo into it and reduced it, we would have to block with the Kushiro. Or potentially the 5 cost law and then a 2k counter. They don't do anything though. We're sitting pretty. So here, I'm gonna do something that I really love to do when I have restand law. I'm trying to utilize the amount of Dawn, minimum 2, that Cavendish would restand. So we're gonna bounce the restand law back to hand. We're not gonna play anything out on purpose. Then we're gonna swing 9 with the Cavendish. Just kidding. We're gonna swing 7 with the Cavendish, restand 2. We're now back at 5 Dawn. They redirect into the Dofi, that's fine. We restand the Cavendish, swing another 7, and then we get to restand 2 more Dawn because Cavendish is not once per turn. Swing 7 with Leader, feeling great about this. Then we do pass turn here. I think we could have potentially just swung with the 5-cost Law Blocker. It wouldn't have hurt us any. We're in a pretty substantial lead at this point. They have no life. They have to play a baby 5 if they want to survive. Otherwise, we pretty much just cook them on our next turn. We have the option or the availability to do double restand law, potentially 3 restand laws if we draw into another one. We're kind of cooking right now. So if they don't see a baby 5, I'm feeling very confident that we just end this. This whole game, honestly, Doflamingo has been swinging into Leader, and I feel like that's just generally the worst thing you could do into Red-Green Law, unless you can outpace their field. Like, it didn't take me, I think, going into my 6th Dawn turn, I had a full board, and I was able to Dawn swap. So, you really just have to clear board when playing into Law, allowing me to have 5 bodies to just with ease play out a 5-cost for free every turn, between Leader effect and then restanding 2 Dawn with Cavendish. It puts you in a really bad position quick. So they swing 10, we are just going to take it. There's no reason to block. That's not true. I say there's no reason to block. The reason we would block is just to get a body off of field. There's no other reason that we would really be worried about it. I'm not in fear of the game ending here. I'm not in fear of my opponent beating me. They're not even swinging into our board, so I feel pretty confident just taking these hits. It might not be technically correct. It maybe promotes bad habits, but I'm pretty confident that we win on the next turn. I think the opponent maybe knows this too. And then it's weird because on this final swing, well, not final, but on this swing, they do opt to activate the Virgo effect, but they don't even reduce anything. So we do let the Kushiro get KO'd here, but this is just for the purpose of freeing up space. So on this turn, we're going to take a minute after we type out to the opponent. We're really going to think like, hey, what's the best use of our Dawn here? Realistically, we could just swing 2 big swings, but having not really played the deck a lot in a while, it feels good to get your brain going to really like think of your most optimal combo lines. So we're gonna, pardon my language, we're gonna BM a little bit. I'm sorry to my opponent. We had a cleaner, quicker way to achieve lethal, but this is a really fun deck, so we kind of play with our food for a moment or two. Three-cost Zoro, literally just overkill. It was just to have Dawn rested to restand with Cavendish. Now we're kind of chipping away at his hand. Again, it doesn't really matter. We could just be swinging bigger numbers here instead of being an asshole. We are going to leader effect, bouncing Zorro, playing the Trafalgar Law, we're restanding the Cavendish to swing 7k again. And that's it. That's the game. Pretty quick in comparison to a couple of the other matches that we played with this deck. I like the list a ton, but it does take a lot of thinking. Well, guys, that's pretty much going to wrap up the video. Overall, I'm really happy with the list. Shout out The Alchemist for sending me another banger. Big fan of Red Green Law, lot of fun playing it. I feel like we had some really good games, the ratios are really good, we didn't really struggle seeing the cards that we needed. Overall, very solid off-meta deck. That's gonna be the video though, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, maybe think about jumping into a Twitch stream. I stream pretty much daily. You can also join the Discord for regular updates, but I am out of here. Have a good one, guys.